Morning, everybody, and welcome to the Avero live stream. My name is Avi. I'm the founder and CEO at Avero, and we are an independent third-party consulting firm that specializes in the public sector in modernizing operations by using your existing technologies better or by helping you find better suited technologies. And we do that through strategic planning, business process redesign, effective project management, and helping you really negotiate those contracts that are once in a lifetime career projects for you, like ERP replacements. We go live every Wednesday around 10 because we're late today. And this content is available on our uh, YouTube channel, on our social media platforms, and you can reach out to us at any time. With me today, I have Ms. Katie Knatzer, our Director of Talent and Operations, who has been with Avero for a long, long time and has lived many lives within the firm. I think you've done every job there is on the
Just
org chart.
about. Yeah,
Yeah, except
just
the ones
about.
we come up with every other day.
Yeah.
Um, but welcome, Katie. It's been a while since we've had
Yes.
you on the live stream. One of your sort of core areas of practice when you were on the delivery side was housing authority
Yep.
consulting, and especially modernizing their ERP systems. You've taken a couple of agencies live on Yardi and helped other agencies, evaluate whether or not they need to stick with their old system or move to a new one. So today's topic is transforming public housing. It's a wonderful service that is provided to the community by housing authorities, and they're all, in a sense, in a state of flux, given that they're all mostly transitioning from a traditional housing authority setup, converting their units, and really trying to solve the issue of homelessness um, in unique and creative ways. And we'll give shout outs to our clients that are at the forefront of this. But anyway, long story short, here's Katie. Katie, tell us a little bit about yourself and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Thanks, AV. My name is Katie Knatzer. As AV said, I'm the Director of Talent and Operations with Avero. I have a deep background in business acquisition and process optimization from that standpoint. And I have been fortunate enough to bring that to the Avero team and also to our clients over the last 4 years. I think it's been 4 years in September. Crazy. Time
Yeah.
flies when you're having fun, right?
It's
But
consulting, it's dog years.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
It's dog years. You multiply the 4 by 7. That's how you
It
get,
is. It is
yeah,
dog years.
actual.
But now I have the opportunity to staff up our team and bring in awesome talent that gets to serve our clients on a day to day basis. But I have really valued my time in the project delivery side and especially in my housing authority clients that I've had the opportunity to serve over the last couple of years. So thanks for having me today.
Of course. So let's talk about transforming, right? It it's such a catch-all phrase, and we use it as a buzzword so many times. What does that mean? Because public housing authorities traditionally did um, a couple of things. They built houses to be made available to the less fortunate at lower rates. So they had to manage these properties. They had to make sure the right people with the right needs were being housed in these properties. And then, I guess as the need expanded, they opened up the housing choice voucher program, previously called Section 8, and now you had to manage wait lists and application processes and eligibility processes. And now there's a transformation in the public housing service delivery model with RAD conversions and really creative use of tax dollars in solving the housing crisis in general. It's not necessarily just focused on homelessness, right? Housing is a hot topic everywhere you go, with housing prices through the roof, rates through the roof, and there's a real crunch in the market itself, that it's beyond just homelessness or management of wait lists. How have you seen this transform with through your work with housing authorities?
That's a great point, and I think the buzzwords are always used, especially with modernization and transformation, just in any entity, whether it's public, private, whatever it may be. But especially for the housing authorities, because a lot of them are transitioning from these very um, what's the word that I want to use here? Just these very structured and very rigid programs that they have to make sure that they are compliant with, especially with HUD. And now they are transitioning more into these RAD models and then also moving to work where they have more flexibility, but still have that compliance in mind with their programs that they're using. So not only are they transforming their programs and how they're serving the people, they have to modernize internally in order to be able to do that. And a lot of the processes and a lot of the systems that they're using are very manual.
Hmm.
They're having to extract their data, manipulate it outside of a system, just to provide the compliance reports that are needed to HUD. And other organizations that they need, whether it's reporting to their local municipalities as well, or other organizations that may need that important data. Like you said, housing is a big thing
Hmm.
everywhere. So
Yeah.
um, transformation in a housing authority is literally the entire market, if you will. The entire market of housing, whether it is low income or whether it's a particular program, from a tax credit standpoint or family self sufficiency. There's tons of them out there, and they're continuing to transform. And really, it's to the area that they're located in to serve the people.
Yeah, and transformation, like you said, it's not just digital transformation anymore. You walk into um, some really forward-thinking housing authority clients, they're doing things like they're a development company, and those that are
Absolutely.
at the forefront of this revolution are actually trying to get away from this label of a public housing authority. So you see them changing their name or being
Mhm.
called, like our local client here, KCDC, Community Knoxville's Community Development Corporation, and they're doing so much to transform the landscape of Knoxville. They've brought in millions of dollars of funding from HUD to transform, um, just what Knoxville looks like. And the same thing is happening with our latest client in Fort Worth, the Fort Worth Housing Solutions. Um, I think they gave me a lot of statistics last week when I was on site, but one of the ones that stuck out to me was a large percentage of their family self-sufficiency program is actually successful. They have graduated people from their FSS programs, from their housing programs into the general population, just by paying real close attention to that piece of their operation, which you know tends to be overlooked at times. So transformation is not necessarily just bringing in a new system. We as consultants now have to sync ourselves with what the agency is trying to do and not just become a
Absolutely.
technology consultant.
Absolutely. Because, like you said, Avi, they're shifting from that kind of nonprofit, the not necessarily not nonprofit, but they're shifting from that type of service more into a management style of an organization. So they're
Mhm.
managing properties, they're managing programs. And so, really putting that into the forefront of how they can optimize and efficiently manage what they need to as an organization.
So what does that do to a traditional, let's just say ERP implementation, right? Because you go into these projects thinking it's going to go a certain way, that you're going to, 10 years ago, housing authority was a housing authority. You had public housing, you had Section 8, you had asset management, you had grants and financials and HR. And now you have these offshoots or different way of creatively delivering services that, products on the market may not help them do. So how do you think of that when you go into a client that is in the middle of a rad conversion? They're doing creative things with FSS. They're offloading their public housing portfolios. They're offloading or becoming more creative with the housing choice voucher program and how they manage wait lists and how they bring on tenants and what standards they use for inspections. The operation has changed. Have the systems changed?
I think that that is the biggest point is really in the housing market, there's not a lot of systems for them to choose from. And
Yep.
especially for the larger organizations that, we see that are really striving to be on the forefront of the housing industry. They only have the big players like a Yardi or
Hmm.
Emphasis Elite or an MRI, for example, just to name a few. But
Right.
um, considerably for other markets, there are multiple options. But
Yeah.
for housing, due to the regulations and having to be compliant with so many different standards for HUD and the programs, there's a very select few that actually have that built into their systems, and so it kind of pigeonholes them and pushes them into a corner to have to really hopefully meet their needs with these
Hmm.
systems that they have to choose from.
So, with the lack of, not a lack of, but there's there are few choices, right?
Mhm.
And not all of them do all of the things. So
Correct. Yeah.
we're in this realm of best of breed, and
Hmm.
it's at the end of the day, it's when rad conversions happen or these agencies turn more into a property management company. Is there a difference then? Because you can go get a property management software to manage properties. You can do best of breed on housing choice voucher management. You can do best of breed on financial and HR management. Is there such a thing as a public housing agency software going forward?
I think that it's generally all turning toward property management, but having the different modules, if you will, to tack on to that property management software for those
Hmm.
additional programs. So you'll have um, you'll have different programs that are in like an affordable type um, module within the system, and then you'll also have your residential side, which is more geared towards your um, regular property management. That would be more of your vouchers and things of that nature
Yeah.
that are not necessarily on a side program that you have through your organization. So I think that there is a best of breed approach. We have seen it across organizations where they have their financials in one system and their property management in another,
Hmm.
or their operations in another. There's multiple different options, and I think the best thing that you can do is take a look at what you actually need, um, and figure out if these systems that you have, the option for, can actually meet those. And that's where I think a lot of people struggle because they do have so few options that they just pick the one that they think is the best and they go for it. Or, they put a nice contract with a big discount in front of them and say, if you sign this before X date, we'll give you this huge discount. And then, we may jack up the prices 3 years later.
Yeah, I mean those we've covered those contract games quite a bit on this live streams, right? But with the again, when there's one major player in the market, how do these agencies go about choosing? Uh, right, and we go to NARO conferences every year, and when I was there last year, there's other software players out there, but there's super niche products that are available, and then there's the big boys. There's Yardi, Emphasis, MRI. Um, and there's a lot of M&A activity and there's a lot of consolidation going on in there, uh, where our clients are everyone every housing authority client we meet, they just roll their eyes at the lack of choice. So is there a point in doing a consulting engagement where you do the needs assessment and you do business process redesign, which is very useful to housing authorities because of the span of their control? It's great for them to visualize what's going on within the organization. Uh, and traditionally, we would use that to then go do requirements definitions and pick the right product through an RFP process. what we've seen recently is when you put an RFP out, you'll have the usual suspects coming in and responding. Then you'll have people that have never done housing that think they can do it, uh,
Hmm.
proposing solutions that have never been used in housing. I'm not saying there isn't a product out there that can do, but I think the most important thing now is defining what that sort of Venn diagram looks like, right?
Absolutely.
Where
Hmm.
does where how do we use financial uh, software? How do you use HR software? How do we use housing management? And within that, how do we use property management and HCV management?
Well, I think that that's a great point, AV, and there is certainly a way to still do that. There's certainly a way to still make sure that you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's to make sure that your house is in shape before you move forward.
Hmm.
And I think that more organizationally and not necessarily from a technology standpoint, it's critically beneficial because you're able to really shine a light on what's actually happening within the organization, what your processes are, and really get an understanding of who's doing what. Like, who owns
Yeah.
this process? Who are our decision makers when it comes to our RAD programs? Who's actually, owning the vouchers? Who is over the property managers or the landlords? There are multiple different things, and I think that as housing continues to evolve, sometimes we don't clean up our house over here and we just keep changing and changing and changing, and there's just a snowball effect of, okay, well, we've changed so much, we didn't make the necessary changes to our operations, but we're still compliant in all of our programs, but we're still using spreadsheets, we're still using the sticky notes, we're passing papers back and forth on our desks, just to get the information that we need. And being able to sit down and really think internally about what you need ultimately. Maybe it's not a 3,000 row RTM or a requirements traceability matrix. Maybe it's a abbreviated version of just the really critical functions that you know that you need to be compliant in the programs that you have. Maybe it is a needs assessment that you go through and you do discovery with your entire organization, and you map out the processes of where you really feel the gaps are in your organization so that you can make sure that there's complete transparency in the organization.
Mhm.
When we've gone in before, sometimes it's eye-opening to staff because they didn't know what another department actually
Yeah.
did, and so they don't have an idea of the full end-to-end process and how their small little piece, if something's missed, could create a ripple effect 2 to 3 other people down the line. And so it really does shine light internally on the organization, but it also helps you make sure that everybody knows where you're at before you move forward. And it also gears your staff up to have that knowledge when they do enter into a contract with a software vendor and they do start implementation. They know how to answer the questions. They're not staring at each other in meetings. They're
Yeah.
prepared. They have the knowledge that they need to be powerful and engaged. And that's really encouraging from a change management standpoint. You're really giving them the knowledge and the power that they need to be successful in the process. And so it's not necessarily just about mapping out the system needs, it's also making sure you're mapping out your organizational needs altogether.
That couldn't be said in better words, Katie. Thank you. Um, and that also helps you not uh, your organization to protect itself from taking being taken advantage of by the
Absolutely.
again, well-meaning, they don't mean harm. But if I'm a vendor that sells software, if I'm coming in to implement something, I assume that you know what you want, but more often than not they don't, and you need to know that at a very granular level. So what we're seeing through recent engagements is that there's a lack of choice. So there's a company that seems to be gobbling up the market. So clients, knowing that they need to transform and modernize, go look at demos, they sign on, and thankfully they're then saying, okay, we think this is the product we want. but Avero, can you come in and verify that for us? So it's kind of unique. So we get to apply our velocity methodology. For those that haven't heard of this, it's going away from the traditional 5,000, 10,000 line item requirements that are, that are recycled, that seem to be written for a specific vendor. It's the old way of doing things. That's what our competitors do. To a more nuanced way of looking at how do you pick the right product, and it has to be a combination of what's on the market, what's being offered, what your needs are, and speeding up that process of selection. There's something to be said about still process mapping and doing deep dives into your organization, but it doesn't always need to be with the end goal of picking the right system. Process mapping can be done even if you don't have an ERP project on the horizon. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
let me take a couple of questions, and before I go there, I want to remind people that the comment box is open. Please send your questions, comments in there. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We have an audience that tunes in from around the world. And the other thing I want to remind people is that on the 28th of this month, we have a very exclusive government ERP workshop, the Insights Workshop, which is going to bring together several subject matter experts, leading voices in the GovTech industry on our channels. It'll be live, but those of you who can attend, it'll be also recorded and distributed. But the QR code's on the screen. Please scan it or click on it, and you'll be taken to the sign-in page. So it's free. Please sign on. And we'd love to have as many of our audience as possible join us and have a very engaging morning. Um, and with that, let's see what's going on in the comment box. So question one is, what happens in an M&A situation where two different systems are being used? Katie, have you've been through
Yeah.
somewhat
So
of a situation with that?
in some ways it's very organizational specific. So I think that you really have to sit down and weigh your options of what does this look like from a process standpoint when you are using two systems, and how are they integrated together, and what does that look like long term. Some choose to stay into two different systems or multiple different systems and do a best of breed approach, but they all speak to one another, and they all integrate. Sometimes in housing authorities, that's not an option, and they don't play well together. And depending on what they've done to either have a band-aid fix, sometimes it's not an option to integrate them at all. And so you have to import and export data. So I think really sitting down and mapping out and getting clear with what that looks like at an executive level, based on the needs of the organization, and mapping out what does a full transition look like, and is there a system that can fully meet our needs.
Yeah.
And really think long and hard before utilizing multiple different systems, but making sure that if you do, that they can seamlessly talk to one another and integrate.
So I think this is a follow-up. So how do you figure out what you need? What can clients do today to start the process?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing that they can do is just really sit down and think about what they do on a day-to-day basis. What would even need to be included in a system? What are some things that are you're doing today that are manual? And I think people get in the rhythm of just doing the day-to-day, and they don't sit down and think about it. They're just getting it done. And so I think that the first thing that they can do is do a needs assessment.
Mhm.
Do the discovery, take the time. It is so valuable to an organization to have that type of transparency in the day-to-day operation, and being able to really pinpoint the gaps that they may have, and they may not even know. And that's the beauty of it. They may not even know that it's happening. And so it really shines light on things that they can improve on and things that they would need in the future. And it really gives the people of the organization a voice in the change that's going to happen. So I think it's a twofold approach of really assessing the current state, but also getting your people on board. change management is critical. I come back to it almost every single time I talk about any project because it is so important. And we say it all the time. These are not just technology projects or ERP projects. They're people projects more than anything. And so you really have to make sure that everybody's on board and on the same page.
Yeah, and we have a handy checklist to where to get started. Another QR code you can scan.
Oh, there you go.
And I'm gonna also put this into the chat box so we can have people clicking on it. Um, it's a handy checklist on what you need to do. It's not too extensive, but it's freely available on the link. Um, so you talked about the needs and capabilities, and those are changing, right? A lot of our clients are so focused on delivering services to their constituents and people in need, especially in housing, that it's easy to not pay attention to what's going on in the market, which is fine. This is why you have consultants, right? You have consultants so that we can bring this knowledge to you. We can go scour the world and say, okay, here's what's coming, here's what's new and exciting, here's how this is going to help you. um, and our job is to present those options and ideas to our clients. And a lot of times on the public sector side, yes, the vendors are thinking about these things too, but given the adoption rate of newer technologies in in the public sector, it doesn't always roll out quickly. That may be changing quickly with AI. And some of the things I've heard recently from clients, especially CIOs that we've engaged with, that are in the middle of a transformation, or they think they want a system but they haven't quite picked it. It's not been finalized. And in housing authority operations, again, lack of choice. There's three things out there, uh, so they kind of know which one they want, but they want to be sure. And some of the things that have come up, um, that seem like they're new and exciting, but they've been around for a long, long time. One was GIS technology. How do you integrate a housing authority software with GIS technology? So that it's a loaded question because it depends. And here we go. The first it depends, and it's been 27 minutes. It depends on whether or not you own a GIS software. Are you a housing authority that is tied to a city organization or a county or a larger municipal agency or a council of governments, let's say, that has or owns GIS? Can you tie into that? Because you're talking about two different projects now, two different systems. Standing up a GIS system isn't just buying licenses from Esri. You have to make sure it's set up right. You have the people on your staff that can configure and manage this, because assets change, data changes. You have to have a data hygiene process built in, and how that ties into your property management system. It's very useful, right? If you have 1,000 properties, you should be able to pinpoint that geospatially using a GIS system. So that's one that has come up recently. What's been your experience with GIS technology and housing authority software?
I think that the biggest thing is like what you're talking about, AV, is the data hygiene. When you get into GIS, you can get really down in the weeds of the different layers and all of the things. But, it really just depends on what you have available. And I think that you hit the nail on the head when you said, are there local organizations that you can partner with that
Mhm.
have this information? If you don't already have a GIS system that you're able to utilize, but also how do you make that data work for you as an organization, and really understanding what you want the outcome to be with the GIS? Are you mapping out the properties? Are you using it also from an asset management standpoint and maintenance standpoint? Are you using that for your work orders? How does that tie back to the bottom line for each property? What all does that look like? So I think that there's great value and benefit in that. It is just really understanding what the need is and what you'll use it for, and integrating it with your housing management system.
Yeah, a great example of that is using it for inspections routing, right?
Absolutely. Mhm.
Inspections tends to be for housing authorities, a sore topic because now, when they are able to track data behind inspections for a large housing authority, it it's mind blowing because I've had CEOs say to me, we should outsource this because look at how much time it takes. And so company is offering to do it for half the time, and it'll save us money and all of that. Routing inspections could be a great use case for GIS technology. Now, do you
Mhm.
really need a full-blown GIS system to do that? Could you not do that? I mean, Google Maps offers a whole bunch of functionality just on their
Mhm.
Maps platform, right? Some of it is paid,
Mhm.
some is not. So, thinking about deeply thinking about, do you really need an Esri license? Do you really need GIS capabilities, or do you just need mapping and routing, right?
Yeah.
So most major metros um, have a joint GIS function. Either the city owns it, or the county owns it, the COG owns it, and it's not just used for one thing. They're using it for mapping utilities. They're using it for mapping traffic lights. They're using it for keeping track of construction and roads and railroads. Um, uh, Traffic incidents, public safety, you name it. So you can't just buy GIS for one thing. You have to make sure that it's being used for several different things that sort of moves the needle forward in your organization. Question time. How do you future proof your systems knowing that AI is on the roadmap? I don't know. Again, we've talked about this quite a bit. There's a lot of noise about AI. There's a lot of products there's a lot of taking ChatGPT and putting your logo on it and calling it your own thing. That's what's going on in the market right now. I haven't seen anything that I've seen demos from large companies like Oracle, SAP that are promising. Um, haven't seen anything on housing side. And if you are listening, Yardi, Emphasis, MRI, whoever's in the uh, software market for housing authorities, we'd love to hear from you
Absolutely.
um, on what is the latest and greatest that you all are bringing to the market. We'll also be at the National Association of Housing Authorities conference in Orlando next month, so we'd love to catch up and chat. Um, but the jury's out. What's going on with AI? I've got theories, and I've been messing with it quite a bit. Um, I don't think anyone's figured it out quite yet. Um, the next thing that came up, again, these are recent conversations with CIOs, CEOs of housing authorities, the use of ChatGPT. We've been using ChatGPT extensively for what seems like forever now. Can't imagine life without it, right? And our clients are just now scratching the surface for good reason. They have to be mindful of publicly available information. They have to be mindful of PII, and they can't just jump in. But the questions stem and are around integration of AI into whatever systems they will be using. And I think the major pain points in housing authorities tend to be on the customer service side, right? Given
Mhm.
the tight labor market, agencies can't find people on the front lines that can um, take uh, interview people, that can casework people that are looking for housing. This was a great conversation last week we had with a client that said, I don't want people pushing paper. I want to transform my agency to the point where people are helping other people and not they're not just paper jockeys, right? Katie, what's been your experience on that front with housing authorities struggling to find good caseworkers, enough caseworkers that can actually talk to people and help them?
That's a great point, and generally many of them are hugely understaffed.
Hmm.
Multiple people wearing many different hats for many different programs, or many different roles within an organization. And I think that there's definitely room in there to really transform that, especially with AI. You have people calling, you're scheduling inspections, like you mentioned earlier. You're also making sure that their certifications are up to date. You're getting their information. They have to come in for interviews and meetings. I mean, there's tons of customer service related tasks that could be done, whether it's at the property level or even at the organizational level of a housing authority. And so, there could be a kind of knowledge base, if you will, where it pulls that information based on what it's given, whether it's from your website or it's integrated with your systems, and the regulations that are involved in some of the programs. If people have questions, they can go there and ask an in AI and in this platform, and it will produce that information for them. Or another great way that we've seen this be beneficial is how do you how do you train up that staff if you are understaffed? And generally sometimes you'll see that these particular positions will be hard to fill and also hard to retain employees. And so how do you make sure that they have the knowledge that they need? And that's been a critical piece in training as well, is utilizing these AI knowledge bases to train up employees, but also answer and really serve people and get people answers.
Yeah.
And also getting people the reports that they need. That's a whole other topic. But that's a really great there's multiple different ways to utilize it within an organization. And I think that the customer service piece is a huge one that could benefit from it.
Yeah. Also, demand management, as data is made available to AI systems, you could do things like predictive analytics, uh, behavior behavioral analytics, um, on tenants and landlords, to make decision making and demand management easier. The other thing that keeps coming up is document management, right? Most organizations have some sort of an electronic document management system,
Mhm.
and usually when we talk with these agencies, they're like, yeah, we scanned a bunch of historical records, now we can't find them because you didn't, whoever you hired for the scanning and whichever system you're using, you didn't take the time to accurately do the taxonomies, you didn't take the time to tag these and make them searchable. um, I think there's also a case study or a use case for AI to be able to go and organize these scans that mean nothing if there's not the right taxonomy or tagging system followed. Um, and given how paper heavy housing authorities are, uh, that could be a great use of AI. What's been your experience with just being laden with paper and not using existing document management systems?
I think that I mean, the majority of them do have paper because they are required to have that tangible file, for many things of the compli from a compliance standpoint. And so what do you need to keep? Do you have resident files that you have to carry with two hands
Yeah.
because they've been with you, like what does that look like for your organization? But I think that, a lot, it's turning the corner, especially as people are going into these more modernized systems, and a lot of them have document management included in them. I'm just going to pinpoint like a Yardi, for example. It's top of mind. It does have document management. I believe it's SharePoint that they integrate with, and the files are right there on the resident in the system. And so there's no need to have that tangible file with you. You're not only is that information available at your fingertips, but it's also the staff that's at the property or at the corporate office that can really access that, and you're not having to walk over to the property, grab the file, take a
Yeah.
look at it with your property manager, so on and so forth. So the systems are really being able to modernize that. And I know that a lot of housing authorities are going through the painstaking project of scanning all of their documentation and, having their interns at the copier one by one, scanning them. So I think it's critically, like, it's a critical piece, because how do you move away from that and streamline your operations when you've done it so long and had the paper for so long? And so I really do think it's turning the corner with the more optimized systems, more modernized systems that make it a little bit easier to organize the information that you put in there.
Yeah, I mean it's not a scanning project.
No,
It's a retrieval project. If you can't find
absolutely.
it, there's no point. We're almost out of time, but I'm going to take a couple more questions. What are the cybersecurity considerations for PHA environment? Not different from anything else. Um, s- Especially, they have to be careful with personally identifiable information (PII), so it should remain um, top of mind and a top priority. And we help housing authorities identify their weaknesses and gaps in cybersecurity and make recommendations for how to fill them. So again, it's the same challenge, maybe multiplied by the fact that housing authorities manage a lot of personally identifiable information, which is a big no-no if you were ever to leak it or make it available to bad people. Um, with that said, Katie, any parting thoughts, comments, questions?
I think that we've really hit a good overview today. But I think my last kind of parting thought would be, even if you've selected a system, and even if and if you haven't, just really take the time to understand what you need. Even if you've already started, and you've started and you're in the implementation, and you feel like you're spinning your wheels or you're not getting traction, it's okay to step back and really think about what you need to move forward, and make sure that your team's on board as well. So do your homework and figure out what you need.
Thanks, Katie. And if you need help with any of this, we're always available, phone call away or an email away. Please reach out to us. And in the comments, you'll find all of our links. The systems we've talked about were featured on the top ERP systems for 2024 in a recent report that we released. And so please go ahead and either download that from our website or reach out and we'll send it to you. Some great info there. But also go sign up for the government ERP workshop. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to reveal this yet, but we're also going to release our 2025 report on all things GovTech modernization, ERP transformation. Some really, really good information in there, and it'll be made available on the 28th for those that will attend, and then we'll make it available for the general public. So please join us and reach out if you need anything. With that, we'll wrap up and we'll see you next week.